Well, hello everybody and welcome to another video tutorial. My name is Peter Drakulic, and in this video tutorial I'm gonna be showing you how you can get this effect of a melting text. It is true that we don't have in Blender for the moment a melting modifier, a melt modifier. So that's why I thought about showing you how you can achieve the same result by using a combination of modifiers, of constraints, and of shape keys. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with our tutorial. So let's start by adding a text object. So I'm clicking Shift A and I'm adding a text object here. You can see it. Now I want to go over here to the properties panel and click on this little F letter icon to get to the properties for this text object here. I want to add some extrude to this object, something like so, and some depth as well. Alright, something like so. So now I want to rotate my object along the x-axis by 90 degrees. I'm now going to place the cursor to the selection, and now I want to add to my scene an empty object. So Shift A, add an empty plane axis, and the reason why is because I want this empty object to be the target of the hook modifier that I'm going to be applying to the text object. So I'm now selecting my text object, and I first want to make it to be a mesh, to convert it, to turn it into a mesh. So I'm pressing Alt-C and converting it into a mesh. So now if I tab into edit mode, you can see it is a mesh, but not a good one. It has a lot of triangles. I want to minimize those triangles, so I need to add a modifier, remesh modifier to my object. I want to deactivate from this properties panel for the modifier, remove these disconnected pieces, and I want to set the octree depth to something like 6 or 7, something like so. So it looks okay now. So now if I tab into edit mode, but first I have to apply the modifier. Now if I tab into edit mode, you can see we have a nice mesh with quads here. So now next thing I want to do is to select my empty object, shift click, select my text object, and I want now to tab into edit mode for the text object. Now I want to select all the vertices, all the faces of my text object, and I want to press Ctrl H, and this is the shortcut for adding a hook modifier. So hook to selected object, I'm clicking on that, and now I have applied a hook modifier to my text object. Now if I go ahead, select my empty and move it, you can see that all of the object is moving along with the empty, which of course is something we don't want to happen. That's why I'm selecting again my text object, and I'm going over here to the hook modifier panel, and I want to set the fall off value to something like 3. Let's say 3, and let me try again. Let me now move my empty. You can see now as I'm moving my empty, the text object is being deformed, better seen through this angle here. Alright, so you can see that, but it is deforming in a very smooth way. Of course we don't want this. We want for this deformation to be more abrupt, maybe more something like melted metal and things like that. So that's why I'm going to be assigning a vertex group to my text object, which is going to be controlling the influence of the hook modifier due to the movement of this empty object. Now if you now go to the triangle here, the little triangle over here, the properties panel for the text object, you can see you have no vertex groups assigned to it. Let me add a new vertex group, and let me name it something like, I don't know, deformation maybe. Alright, so we have our deformation group. For the moment the group is empty because it doesn't we haven't assigned any vertices to it, but now the quick way for assigning a vertex group and weights to your object is by clicking Control Tab and switching over to the weight paint mode. So you can do the same by getting down here and switching over from the object mode to weight paint mode. Now I can start weight painting over my text object. Well, as you can see now, my object is blue, meaning that all the vertices have a weight of 0. So let me start adding some weight to the vertices, and the rule of thumb is that you want for the upper part of your object, alright, the upper part of the letters, the weight to be in those parts to be maximum, so you get a nice deformation there. And as you move towards the bottom part, you need to lower the weight and giving to those parts there a less, a lower weight, whatever. So the other rule of thumb is that you don't want to leave any hidden area unpainted, especially in the upper part. You want to paint over all the areas of this text object. Of course, you are not restricted, you are not limited into making something like, something stripes of colors here. You can, of course, add some variation of weight here and there. You can alter the weight so you get a nice random deformation for your object. But the rule of thumb is that the higher you paint, the more red you want the color to be, the more weight you want to have there. While as you're moving towards the lower part, you want to lower the weight. Alright, you get the meaning. And for those parts that are at the very bottom of our text object, we want for them to be just blue, meaning we don't want for them to have any weight other than 0. Alright, so I'm going to finish with painting my my text object. I'm going to pause the recording for a while, and I'll be back in just a while. Alright, now as you can see, I have finished with weight painting my text object, and now all I want to do is to to map this vertex group that I have just weight painting on my text object. I want to make it to be the vertex group that is going to be controlling the way or the intensity in which the empty object affects, deforms the text object due to the hook modifier. So I'm going to the vertex group. Before that, I want to show you that I have renamed this vertex group here as deformation. So I want to set this here to be the group. So I'm selecting now the empty object. As I'm moving it, you can see it, how it deforms the whole object. Alright, very well. Now, very important, you need to select this text object, tab into edit mode, and we need to set the origin of it somewhere down here. Let me select this, alright, and go down here, select a face at the very bottom, go to the select similar, coplanar. Alright, somewhere here we need to place the origin. So Shift S, I'm bringing the cursor to the selected, tabbing out edit mode, Control Shift Alt C, and place the origin to the 3D cursor. Alright, now you can see something has changed a little bit as far as the deformation goes, but alright, we can fix it. Alright, you can see by moving the empty. Alright, the important thing is that we have a deformation. Now let me add a plane so you can better see how this works. So I'm adding a plane as well, and I want to show you that as I'm moving downwards the empty, the text is being deformed, but then again we have this effect. Some vertices are going through the plane, right? So we don't want this to happen, of course. Alright, and so let me go back. Alright, let me bring my text object here. but we're going to be fixing it later on, and I will show you how to do this. For the moment, let's say that we want for an animation to last about 50 frames. So I want to add 2 keyframes to my empty object. I want to go to my first frame of my animation, and I want there to go over here to the little cube icon where it says Z location slider here, and I want to set a first sync keyframe for my empty object. So I'm right clicking, insert sync keyframe, and then I want to move to the frame, let's say 50, alright, and I want to set that frame there. I want to move my empty object somewhere like so, alright, something like so. Don't worry about the exact position, you'll see later on, alright, and I want to set another keyframe here, alright, so I have now, if I set the end keyframe for my animation to 50 and play back the animation, you can see that we have this deformation, which doesn't look great. It's true for the moment, but we're going to fix this in just a while. So stick with me, and we're going to fix everything. Alright, now, next thing I want to do is to perhaps add a subdivision surface modifier to my text object, so it looks, more, more fluid, for more smooth the surface. Okay, so next thing I want to do is to address the issue with the plane. We don't want for the vertices of the text objects to pass through the plane. So for me to fix this, I'm going to be adding 2 shape keys to my text object. So I'm heading over to this little triangle icon over here, the mesh data, alright, panel, and I want to add a shape key, which is going to be the basis for my deformation, shape key deformations, I mean. Now I want to add yet another shape key, which is going to be the, let's say, the deformed shape key, alright, for my text object. Alright, for this shape key now, I want to tab into edit mode, I want to select all the vertices, and I want to scale them along the z-axis, but very important, we want to scale them relative to the cursor this time, right? Relative to the bottom of this text object. So I'm pressing period on my keyboard, and I want to scale them along the z-axis first. So why am I doing this? Because I want to give a final shape to my text object, fairly, scale it fairly, fairly enough, whatever, and then scale it along the XY plane somewhat, and then scale a little bit along the Y plane. So you can see, I want to give it this final shape to my text object. Now I want to enable from down here the proportional flow-off, right? For the connected geometry, I want to select, let's say, this face, and I want to grab it somehow, giving a more fluid look, to my. Well, you could try also the general. I mean, we want to give a more, melted look, whatever. So I'm selecting. Let me go here, select those faces, making it look more, smooth, the whole surface and things like that. All right, and I'm moving them. Those faces here, you get the meaning, like a melted, a liquid or a melted metal or something like so. And I want, very important, I want to select some faces here in the around the border, and I want to press Alt-S, and I want to, let me switch over to the shaded view mode so you can better see what I'm talking about. And I want to Alt-S, scale them along the normals, giving even more. It's like sculpting a fluid or a shape like a melted metal. So that's how I want. So I want to avoid a very sharp, very sharp-edged shape for my melted whatever metal. So, all right, you get the meaning. All right, you don't need to be precise, very exact. All right, but now we have, if I go to the deformed shape key here, in the shape keys panel, and I give it a value of 1, you can see how it looks. It looks like the whole text object has been, melted. All right, you can see. So I want to keyframe this value here as well. So for my first frame of my animation, I want to give it a value of 0. So insert keyframe, and then I want to press Shift right arrow, get to the last frame of the animation, and I want to set all the way to 1, and I want to insert keyframe there as well. But now, as you can see, we have another problem. If you take a closer look, underneath the plane, we have our text object that is found below the plane. And let me show you another thing. If you go to the hook modifier, you can see the slider is the force slider. So this slider here is controlling how much this empty effect is affecting, is affecting the shape of the text object. So if you lower this all the way down, you can see that we have fixed this problem. So we need to add yet another 2 keyframes for this force slider as well. So I'm getting the first frame of my animation, and I'm setting the force to be 1, all right, for the hook modifier. So right click, and I'm inserting a keyframe, and then I'm getting to the last frame of my animation, and I set the force to be 0, all right, and I'm inserting yet another keyframe. So now, if I play the animation, if you take a look here, all right, we have this effect. All right, well, some vertices might, be found under the plane, but that's not a big thing. All right, and the general the overall idea is that we have a deformation due to the hook plus a deformation due to the shape key. All right, so now we could adjust, of course, the shape of this curve here of the animation for the force slider. So I'm splitting the screen, and I'm bringing the graph editor here. So if you want for the force to fade out more quickly, you need to find the force hook here. You need to select this force hook, and I think it's the blue one. All right, yes. So let's press home so I can zoom in. All right, in this curve here, you can see it has a value between 1 and 0, and I need to change this value. So let me zoom in a little bit so you can see better this curve here of the force hook modifier. Now I need to add yet another control point here, yet another handle by control clicking on this curve. So now I have added this point, I can select it, and I can grab it, right? I can move it somewhere like so, so I can interactively adjust it. You can see the effect down here. You can interactively adjust the influence of the force to the overall shape of your object. So that's very important if you want to have a more quick fade out, all right, a more pronounced deformation due to the hook modifier. You need to play a little bit around with this force hook curve here in the graph editor. So let me close this window really quick, and now if I scrub the slider in the animation here, you can see that I have a very pronounced deformation due to the hook, and that fades out really quick in the last frames. All right, and you get the meaning. Now we have just the shape key deformation here, but then again we don't have the problem with those vertices that are passing passing through the plane. Okay, so let me play this again. Of course, this is just for our tutorial. You can experiment for yourself with this technique, and I hope you can achieve a much better result if you give it some more time and play around with the hook modifier. And with the, I want to show you also, you could split this screen here, switch over to the graph editor, and you can play with all those curves here in the graph editor, any of the properties. But the basic technique is that you add a hook modifier to your object, a vertex group that is going to be controlling the influence of the hook modifier, and then you want to add a shape key for the final shape, and also you want to make the force of the modifier, of the hook modifier, to be fading out as we go towards the last frame of our animation, and the shape key you want for it to keyframe as well, so it's getting to a higher value of 1 at the last frame of our animation. So that was our tutorial for today. I hope you enjoyed it and you learned something from this. If you like this tutorial, don't forget to subscribe. See you next time with a hopefully interesting topic, hopefully soon. Until then, have fun and goodbye.